Mr. Board Maker.
Oh,
For
look
all
at.
of you pretty foo-foo guys, he wanted to really make an impression.
Well, I was going to say that's probably for Randy. That was probably the board for Randy.
Oh, is it?
I think that's some sample tile he might have brought in for.
All right. Okay, well, it's pretty nice. I said, you gonna put a thing on here so we can hang it on the wall? It looks more like a picture than a.
Yeah, that's pretty fancy.
He knows who the boss is.
That's for him. That's important to know. First things first. Take care of the female gene. You'll be all right. So, one interesting thing to note. This is a porcelain mosaic. Is it relatively dense or relatively porous compared to most tile?
Very dense. Yes.
So,
very dense.
I can tell you that this is going to take a lot longer for the grout to dry in this joint than it would in a 3x6 subway tile, right? How many have grouted 3x6 subway tile? That's a popular item right now, right? Or it used to be 4 1/4 when I was an old man set tile. But the same bisque, it's a white body bisque. If I were to grout a 4 1/4 or a 3x6 subway, I would expect that thing to just suck the moisture up so quick that it would not have much time at all before I needed to start washing it. Contrary, with this one, I could have 30, 40 minutes before I want to start washing it, as opposed to less than 3 minutes on the other one. So when someone says, how long do you have to let it set? It really depends. If it's a hot day and you got a porous tile, and that's about as quick as you can take that grout float over it, you're going to need to start washing it. Contrary to this or porcelain paper, it's going to take a lot longer to dry. And so this is what I always say, and it's worked really well for me, is I just do the touch test. When I touch that grout joint and it no longer transfers to my finger, then it's go time. But whenever I touch it and it transfers my finger, it's too wet. You'll end up washing out the grout and you'll overwater it. If you've seen pinholes in grout ever before, that's because of too much water. And so it creates a bunch of voids in the grout. And so when the water finally does evaporate out, it leaves a little pinhole from where the water once was. So that's why you don't want to wash it too soon. You don't want to make the grout too loose. You don't want to overwater it when you're wiping it up or cleaning off the tile. So those are important things. I'm going to show you another trick here with this. Have you seen this kind of sponge before? This is called an aqua zone sponge that we made. Originally, we made this for the Flex Color CQ grout. Have you ever used Flex Color CQ? Okay. It's a single component grout. It's a urethane. You just open the bucket and you take it out. Okay, that's really effective and it works a lot of places. But we started using this grout sponge with that product in particular. But I like it with all the grout, really. And the reason why is because it doesn't leave an excess amount of water on your grout joint and tile. If I were to use this hydro sponge, we call them, it just dumps a lot of water back on it. It washes it out, it overhydrates it. So let me show you in comparison. I'll soak both of these really well. And I'll show you which one holds more water. Look at that. So that's why this thing dumping a ton of water on the surface. This dumps very little. It's not because it doesn't have water. Look, it has a ton of water, but it holds it. So when I grout this, it doesn't deposit a bunch of excess water and cause overhydration or wash it out. This is my favorite grout sponge ever. It's a big deal, guys. So if you want a full joint, this is the program to run with. I'm telling you, it makes a difference. So are you using all the Ultracolor Plus FA grout?
Yeah, pretty much that or care epoxy.
Okay. So let's talk about the Ultracolor Plus FA. We used to have the old Portland cement binders. It was called Caracolor. Any of you remember that stuff? It was a Portland cement binder.
Yeah, we still got some from old stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a good grout, it's a Portland cement, but the problem with that is with the Portland cement binder, it always, not always, but too many times causes efflorescence. You know what efflorescence is? Portland cement has a molecule in there that contains a certain amount of well, now I'm hitting a brain cramp. Josh, Portland cement has what in it that causes efflorescence?
Portland cement.
Yeah.
What?
Move on.
Okay. I can't believe it. I've been preaching. It's this old age thing, guys. It's a bummer. Don't go there. Anyway, soluble salts. Thank you very much.
Soluble
It
salts.
has a soluble salt to it. So when it hydrates, when water hits it, it evaporates to the surface and leaves that white film. We've seen that. We've seen it on masonry somewhere. Sprinklers hit it, and it causes all that white stuff. That's soluble salt, and it comes to the surface. They call it effluent. Well, the binder we use in the Ultracolor Plus is not Portland cement binder. It's a calcium aluminum binder, and it has no soluble salt because it's effervescent. So that's really the biggest reason we did that. Also, when this stuff dries, it has about 3 to 4% porosity to it. Portland cement binder has about 10 to 13%. So we're much denser and stronger. So this is a big move for us, and it's been the best move we ever made. It's a huge advantage. So now when we use this grout, we know that because of the calcium aluminate, it's a little bit faster drying, which if you notice that when we switch, this goes off a little bit quicker. So you just have to be on your game. You may not be able to spread this whole room in one shot. You might have to break it up in sections unless you have a team, right? One guy spreading, and 2 or 3 guys following behind float or watching. But it takes a little bit shorter time. And when it dries, it kind of just dries all at once for the most part. The stuff in the grout joint, stuff in the bucket, stuff on the face towel, kind of dries similarly all at the same time. So be ready. Don't wash it too soon, but be ready because that window is very important. What else? Have you noticed anything good, bad, or different in using the Ultracolor Plus that you want to comment on?
You put your water in, you've got powder for several minutes, and you're like, do I need more water? Do I need more water? No, I don't. Just keep mixing. And then all of a sudden, it's evaporates.
He's exactly right. When you mix that, originally it looks like water and vinegar. It doesn't mix, right? But you give it 60 seconds mixing it, and now all of a sudden it melts together.
Yeah.
It's a good observation. So, and that's because of that calcium aluminate binder. But mix that, and what I would say is don't over water your grout. It's just don't do that. And in fact, if I'm using a porcelain tile, I'll probably mix it a little bit on the stiff side. Now, if I'm using a white body wall tile, I would always guys, pre-wet the tile first. Because if you look at the grout joints now on a 3x6 subway, it used to be just a lug here and there, 2 of them, and now it's a continuous rim lug. And so that goes halfway up, and it's a V, only it's a very tiny, 1/32 of an inch. There's not much room for grout there. And so if you have a really porous tile, it's going to suck the moisture out of it right now. And you don't have enough body in that grout to let it cure out. And cement has to cure it, right? So if you take the water out of it too soon, it'll just powder out when you dry. So it's very important on a white body wall tile, pre-wet it. For example, I have a subway tile on my house, and I take a pump sprayer, almost a full gallon, and this is just a cup surround in this one bathroom. I do the walls, the ceiling, and I use almost a full gallon of water on that stuff. I was going to soak those joints really well. And I took my towel, dried the face, and grouted it. It's hard as heck. If you don't, I guarantee you, that white body wall tile will end up giving you a very soft, funky grout. So pre-wet the joint and give it a chance. Okay? Understand that? I see that more than ever, especially down in this climate.
Yeah, the bisque backings are really, really, really porous.
Okay, so let's see if he's got a grout. He does. How about this? Keeping him a bigger up close. No, it's not. Okay. So how did you mix this?
So, if you're mixing a full bag, obviously, it's got a wet and a dry ratio. Oh, do I need to keep mixing it?
That's good.
But I mixed it on the stiffer side because I know I'm going into a porcelain. The other thing is, and I was explaining to Rod came over for a second. When you're first using this grout, the tendency is to mix it looser, so it's a little bit easier to work with. The challenge when you do that, and I'm sure Bart already talked about this, is you overhydrate that water molecule, which is going to cause two things. It's going to cause a weaker grout, and it's also going to cause pock marks. What happens is that water molecule, when it's in that grout, evaporates and bursts, right? And that pock mark or that molecule leaves a little void. Okay, so if you have the right thickness of grout, some guys will say, you know, well, yeah, it's easier to smear if it's loose. It's true, but if it's too loose, it's problematic. Okay. Now, the two ways that you can introduce water into grout and overhydrate it, one is that in the actual mixing process, like we've done today. The second way is when you're cleaning. The tendency, especially if you've got a new guy, he starts cleaning that grout and he's wiping and wiping and wiping and wiping.
And wipe it out of the joint.
Yeah, and he's putting tons of water into that product. So sometimes you'll have deep into the bed of the joint, you'll have decent grout, but on the top it's so overhydrated. So this is a really, really user-friendly product. If you have, you know, obviously Bart's going to clean this up a little bit, but the next day it's okay to have a little bit of haze on that tile. A little bit of haze is okay. Aggregate, not okay. But a little bit of the haze is just fine. It'll wipe right off the next day. Okay? So make sure that your helpers or whoever's doing the grouting knows it's okay to leave a little bit of haze, and you're not going to get it all cleaned up on that first cleanup. Because the tendency is, like I said, to just wipe and wipe and wipe and wipe. But you're going to overhydrate that joint and make it weak.
I'm going to leave a corner of this.
That's what I tell them. I says, it's gonna be hazy, but
Yeah.
brush it off tomorrow.
You can literally come with a terry cloth,
Yeah.
cheesecloth, whatever, and buff that off it, and it looks gorgeous.
I'm going to leave this a little heavy because sometimes that happens. We'll just see how it cleans up, right?
And what I've noticed and was taught years ago, go in every direction onto those grout lines so it sticks to the sides. You
Yes.
go one direction, you're only sticking to one edge.
But you can see, I mean, that's pretty thick.
This is as stiff as you want to go.
Right. The other thing, did you talk about slaking? Okay. So you guys know this, in the summer months, you'll be grouting and the grout's kicking off like in 15, 20 minutes, okay? One of the things that Bart and I actually tested back when I was on the distribution side, when he was my rep, he and I tested together. We took this FA because the guys, when it first came out, you know, they were used to using the regular sanded and non-sanded grout, so you could spread 1,000 to 10,000 feet without having to clean it. You could come back and clean it later, but this was setting up so fast. So Bart and I did two side-by-side comparisons. One where we just mixed like normal, straight off the bag, and on the second one, we let it sit for about 2-3 minutes, and then we re-whipped it for about 30 seconds to a minute. 30 seconds is really all you need. And what we found was it doubled the pot life. So, little trick today, if you're grouting and it's hot outside, wet your joints, do everything that you need to do so that that's not extracting that water out of your joint, or out of the grout, excuse me. But give it another whip. After you get it all mixed up so you're happy with how it looks, let it sit for 2 minutes and then re-whip it again. It'll extend that pot life. Okay? Any questions on any of the grout or anything we've gone over so far?
It tells you that on the bag, don't it? I know it used to re-whip to let it sit for 5
So
minutes.
yeah, so all of, and it's becoming more and more important. My products, Ultraflex 1 and Cur 111, they're not as sensitive to that slaking process as, say, our Caraflex line is. The old mortars and thin sets, you know, used to have 5 to 7 ingredients. These new mortars have over 20. And so what's so important is we give that, whatever it is, whether it's grout or thin set, whatever, give that time for those different particles and additives to hydrate, to get some of that water. And then, as we reintroduce that, once it's absorbed that water molecule, we can reintroduce it into the product, whip it around. We've got our mud exactly how it's supposed to be. In fact, just a quick story, Jake had a customer that called me and said, you know, this new mud that you've got me is crap. And I said, really? And he says, yeah, there's something wrong with it. I said, okay, Jake, you put the pallet somewhere safe, you know, I'll come down and take a look at it. So I came down and had one of the warehouse guys follow me, and it was actually one of the helpers for the tile contractor. Anyway, I said, just stay by me, watch me, everything that I do, so you can witness what I've done. And he says, okay. And so I went to this quarantine pallet, grabbed a pallet of mud, mixed it up, did everything by the book, right? And I said, give me your heaviest piece of tile. Jakey went and grabbed a big old fat piece of granite, and I slapped that sucker on the wall, and it didn't move at all. Not a 16th of an inch, not a 32nd of an inch. The contractor says, there's no way that's the same mud. Said to his helper, where did I get the mud? He got it from the contaminated pallet. I said, you guys, as these products, you know, you'll get these guys that have been doing this 20, 30 years, they know everything, right? I love those guys, but we need to educate them, because these products didn't exist 20, 30 years ago. They're very, very different. I mean, some of them literally almost space age technology in it, right? We've got tons of different polymers and additives and things that have to be hydrated. So we understand that time is money. But I'm telling you, if you mix these products right and you do it how it's recommended, don't listen to me, right? Listen to the text from Mapei. They're smarter than me, and I'll admit to it all day long. They've done the tests, they've done the legwork, they know how these products perform under certain conditions. So if you follow what's on the bag, you're going to be just fine. You know, for a lot of our mortars, we have just a quick little card. I think I got it on that desk. 351. Mix for 3 minutes, let it sit for 5, re-whip it for another minute. That's great principle for any of our mortars. Okay, it allows those polymers time to get hydrated, you know, and put into the mud where you need it to work. Okay, anything you want to add on that?
No, it's good.
Thanks. Are we almost dry?
Getting close, but you know, if I put my finger on there, I can still, you can't see it real close, but I still got transfer. It's not time yet. It's really tempting just to get on this thing and just finish it right, but you're ahead of the game if you have the patience. Do something else, clean up, do, I don't know, whatever. We want you productive, so don't take a smoke break, right? We want you to work. Do something productive while this is drying.
We just want a job well done that we don't have to go back to.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Exactly. So it's been about 7 minutes already. We mix this up fairly stiff, so it might not be as long as normal, and it's still very arid out here. It's very dry. If I were to mix this in Florida, I would have a longer wait time because it's so humid. When we mix our materials, and everybody does, the set times, the cure times are all based on 70%, or excuse me, 70 degrees and 50% relative humidity. So if we're hotter and we're drier, because you're about 0% humidity out here most of the time, right? And you're a lot hotter than 78 degrees. So you know that things are going to kick off a lot quicker here than they would in a very humid place, New Orleans or wherever, and when it's cool. So base everything on that medium, and then you'll be able to identify how long it's going to take before you can wash it or do something like that. But it is getting close. But I can still see that. Here, I'll show you that. See that on my finger? Mm-hmm. So it's not ready yet. And
What's funny is we'll do these demos, and we'll have, I'm sure you talked about ceramic tile and how thirsty it is, but we did a side-by-side comparison with another product, one of our competitions, because we were hearing it was setting up faster and great and glorious and all this other baloney. But anyway, so we did a side-by-side comparison, and we did ceramic, porcelain mosaics, and the porcelain and the porcelain mosaics, they took 20 minutes to dry out, to where we could start cleaning up. Where the ceramic tile, 3.5